Hello, I'm Super Orange Cat. Here I am today with Toonami's ratings from August 25th, 2021. Let's start with the top of the block. At the top of the block, we have Fena Pirate Princess at a 0.16, My Hero Academia at a 0.12, Hime at a 0.10, Food Wars at a 0.10, Black Clover at a 0.10, Attack on Titan at a 0.00, and Dragon Ball at a 0.08. First things first, you might be wondering, wait, you actually have Attack on Titan and Dragon Ball's ratings from this past week? I thought they don't report that on Spoiler TV. Well, that's because I got it this week from Showbuzz Daily, which is back. It's a long story. It involved the person who originally did the website having retired, and they had to get him back to help them with the website. And now Showbuzz Daily's website is back in order. So that's going to help. That means I'll probably have the ratings Tuesday each week again because Showbuzz Daily was always very prompt about that. That morning, Tuesday morning, they would have the numbers out. So good news there. Now let's actually get into Toonami's ratings and let's tackle the obvious. Let's talk about Fena Pirate Princess. So this week at a 0.16, and this kind of fulfilled the prophecy I mentioned last time. How last week it had two episodes. The debut was 1 hour. The first was a 0.20, and the second was a 0.14. And I theorize that the reason for that notable drop between those two episodes was a couple of factors. One being people watching it and deciding that's not the show for them, and people who watched the first episode assumed that Fena Pirate Princess was done for the night and changed the channel to something else and didn't know that there was more Fena Pirate Princess, but it was something that they were going to watch again next week at midnight. And I think having a number in between those two is a strong indicator of that because you had that tiny bit, like that small bit up that from 0.14 to 0.16 was the people who legitimately didn't know that a second episode aired last week. So there's that. However, the fact that you had a net, if you're going from the first episode to this episode, it was a 20% drop. From first to third episode, that's not that good, especially considering that Fena Pirate Princess wasn't necessarily getting amazing ratings. It was doing serviceable at 0.20. And again, the reason why there's more emphasis on this is the fact that this is a Toonami original. Toonami has more chips in the pile, per se, for Fena Pirate Princess than they had for, say, My Hero Academia. For My Hero Academia, the costs involved in that show are mostly limited to the ad space that they have to take up to air promos for My Hero Academia and the actual licensing fee. That's where the money, that's where the costs are. And for Fena Pirate Princess, they basically went halvesies with Production IG and Crunchyroll with it. And the exact extent to which the financial ties to Adult Swim are to this, whether they paid, how much more did they pay? Did they pay more than Crunchyroll? Did Crunchyroll pay more for it? Because no, this part, this is an old part. This partnership happened before the whole Crunchyroll being sold shit. So again, it'll be interesting to see what the financials are. Those are numbers we're never going to see, by the way. It's always like a meme that Jason DeMarco's like, "Oh, you don't see all the numbers." Well, those are numbers we definitely are not going to see in Adult Swim and Toonami are going to keep close to their chest. But again, considering the fact I haven't seen anyone post anything saying how successful Fana Pirate Princess is, that's not a good sign. Because I remember with how high the ratings were for Fully Coolly Progressive that Adult Swim Toonami ran a victory lap. And that's before the ratings for Progressive started really tanking towards the end there. So again, it'll be interesting to see, again, with how things go weeks from here. And again, this reminds me, Phantom Pirate Princess is eerily similar in how it's performing to Fully Coolly Alternative, but and for completely different reasons. Like Fully Coolly Alternative, it had to follow up Fully Coolly Progressive, which was generally a hated show. So people's expectations for Fully Coolly Alternative dropped. And it dropped to the point that a lot of people just didn't bother to watch it, which is why the ratings for Fully Coolly Alternative were atrocious. Worse than the numbers Fana Pirate Princess is getting, by the way. Fana isn't to that level of bad ratings. Because I think Fully Coolly Alternative kept getting like 0.12, 0.13. And you have Fana Pirate Princess with 3 years of cable cutting later is getting higher numbers. So not necessarily a win, but definitely not a loss there, Fana Pirate Princess. And Fana Pirate Princess, you have, and again, like Fully Coolly Alternative, those are shows that both I personally liked And I think the general reaction for these shows are positive. From what I can tell around, people are pretty much enjoying Fana Pirate Princess, which normally is a good thing. But again, TV is a business, and it's not doing, from what we can tell about the business numbers, it's not looking good at this point. So again, and if the numbers go down any further, it can get ugly. Because like I said, my theory going into 2021 was that Adult Swim basically allowed Toonami free reign, basically knowing that all the chips were in the pile for the original series. So it's like, okay, Toonami, we'll give you leeway for your ratings, we'll give you leeway for sales, we'll give you leeway for reputation, but Phantom Pirate Princess, Uzumaki, and Blade Runner Black Lotus better be bangers. And at least they're off to a good start for Uzumaki, because I saw reception. I saw when they released the new trailer for it a few weeks, like a few months back at this point. Actually, time flies fast, and everyone loved it. And I've seen people outside the Toonami sphere, even people outside like the anime sphere, talk about it. So that's an amazing sign there. But again, I've heard crickets outside the typical Toonami fan base about Phantom Pirate Princess. It's not really translating well. It's not transferring. It's not disseminating that well. And it's really well loved by Toonami's fans. And from what few people I do know outside this typical Toonami sphere that's looked at it, typically like it as well. I don't think that's going to be enough for what Toonami or Adult Swim is going to need. And after that long spiel, now to talk about the rest of the block. And this kind of still is going to connect to Phantom Pirate Princess because, again, being the first show of the block, as Dragon Ball Super, as My Hero Academia know very well, you have to also play a role in holding up the ratings for the rest of the block, the halo effect. And it didn't do that because, again, you had a drop of 400ths from Phantom Pirate Princess to My Hero Academia, which would be just kind of okay, but considering that it's not really starting at a high point, it looks bad. When My Hero Academia, a new episode of Toonami, My Hero Academia gets a 0.12, that's not good, especially when it's at 12:30, which for Toonami standards is early in the night. And after that, you have Yashahime, which had an atrocious 0.07 last week. It went up to a 0.1, but again, still disappointing overall. The Yashahime has had like 2 weeks where they had like bizarrely amazing numbers where they like beat My Hero Academia. But outside of those 2 weeks, it's really kind of been a bit of a depressing uh, showing in terms of ratings. And there's talks, I've heard people make rumors that they hadn't talked about replacing Attack on Titan or Dragon Ball Super as reruns because they're planning on pushing Yashahime back. I don't know about that. I don't know. When's the next show? When's the next show slated to end on the block? I'm looking at these and I'm guessing My Hero Academia. But I think I heard somewhere My Hero Academia is going to end like in October on Toonami. So that's still a couple months away. So this is going to be kind of a sturdy schedule. The only way we would see any real changes to schedule soon is if there really is something up with the block that they really have to change things around for the ratings. And again, because Phantom Pirate Princess is your is your ultimate gamble, you have to put that lead off. Like you really, and you definitely can't back off now 3 episodes in, which is exactly what they did with Fully Coolly Progressive. That is a weird, baffling move they made. Because Fully Coolly Progressive aired at midnight initially for the first, I want to say like 4 episodes. And then because there were other schedule changes, I forgot which show came on or off the block, they decided to move it up, though. Move it up to 11:30, which again, when you don't change that. When it's a six one well, Fully Coolly was 6 episodes long. 6 episode long show, you're not gonna switch up the time slot halfway through. And at that point, the ratings hadn't really tanked yet, and I think that moving it up out of the slot where people were gonna tune in to watch it hurt the ratings because they would tune in at midnight expecting to see what happens because end of episode 4 was after Haruko vor Jinyu. You're expecting, okay, where do we go now that Jinyu's gone? And you see, I don't know, whatever show. That actually been My Hero Academia. Actually, took the midnight slot after that, and they just like, well, screw it, I'm not watching this. And then, okay, off my spiel, back to the rest of the ratings. Food Wars. I believe it was I think the season 4 premiere was this week. I think, right, or was it last week? One of those two. 0.10. And I can go in because this is a weird common theme in 2021 of Toonami. Toonami having these shows that perform really well, or at the very least have very big, loving fan bases that you got a lot of good reception on the block, and they have to air some type of follow-up to it in 2021, and it's a follow-up that's widely hated or widely panned, and the fact that Toonami, well, we air sequels, so we're gonna have to air it. So they're just kind of stuck with a show they know is not gonna get a good response. Because Food Wars season 4. If you follow Food Wars, people who follow, especially particularly the manga, they already know that when you get to around season 4, there is a well-known reputation that it gets bad. Well, I don't know. I haven't read the manga for myself, but every single person I've asked about this has said that it gets bad in season 4. And when everyone says it, it might actually be true. And again, and the other times this year, they've been stuck with that is Yashahime. A lot of people say it was not really a worthy successor to Inuyasha. And then probably the most famous one, The Promised Neverland Season 2. I have a whole series of videos on it called The Downward Spiral. Check that out. And now Black Clover, it went up 400s to 0.10. I guess because it went up the most, I'm going to call Black Clover the winner of the night. It's had quite a few hard weeks recently, and I don't know if like Noelle or Sakura do stuff. I'm trying to think of like the big waifus in Black Clover. Usually when the ratings go up a notable amount for Black Clover, it's because a waifu got a lot of screen time. And then after that you had, by the way, I'm like halfway through the research for my third waifu video. And also afterwards, you have Attack on Titan and Dragon Ball Super reruns. 0.07, 0.08 aren't really bad for reruns. And that's the thing, the back end of the block actually did all right for its standards. It's just the front half, particularly Fena Pirate Princess and My Hero Academia, have been lacking. So it'll be interesting. We'll have the same schedule next week, a rare bout of stability. I think for the foreseeable future, we will have the same schedule. So maybe that helps with ratings overall, having everything be predictable again. What do you guys think? What's your opinions? What do you think about how the schedule's slated now? Which show do you think should replace My Hero Academia when season 5 ends in like a few months? Leave your comments, leave your opinions down below. I love reading them. I'm the Super Orange Cat, and that is all.